It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Good morning, sweet world, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Wednesday, December 30th. I'm J.D. Skeets, and alongside me, as always, we got Tass Mellon.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Tassy. We got the Bass Master ripping them lips, Trey Kirby.
Hey.
Oh,
The international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
friend.
Last but not least, making the magic happen, it's JD.
Hello.
There he is, and here we are. JD, remind me, later in this podcast, later in this show, we are going to get your Wonder Woman 1984 review. I totally forgot about it the other day. We'll slip that in a little bit later. Shout out to the stream team. Appreciate you guys taking the time to join us live on YouTube today. Make sure y'all like and you comment and you subscribe and you tell your friends, and let's grow the No Dunks YouTube channel. Email us your questions and your comments to nodunks@theathletic.com. Get them in for next week's Beach Steppin' podcast. Go grab yourself some sweet, new-ish No Dunks merch at nodunks.com. Yeah, Trey's got the No Dunks basketball high school like sweater on.
Whoa.
And the shorts. Let's see the dong too. Why not?
All right, if you want.
Okay. Oh, his dong knocked over the mic. Here we go. That was great. Comfy?
Yeah, feeling good now.
Okay, good. It's not really a classic until Trey's knocked his mic over anyway.
Nice. Okay. We're back, baby. We're back. Sorry, I haven't stood up on a podcast in a long time.
I asked him, are the shorts comfy, Trey?
Yeah. You know, I got bowling ball legs, Skeet, so I'm filling out those billowing shorts. If you're built like Alexei Pokashevsky, though, you might be sticking some sticks down through, if you know what I'm saying. What?
Oh my god. A weird start to this one. I want to remind everyone, if you haven't already, make sure you check out the bonus podcast we recorded and posted late last night with writer Rembert Brown discussing his new podcast, Gaining Ground, the New Georgia, and all the work that went into flipping the state of Georgia blue for the first time since 1992, and how Trae Young is making the Hawks cool, and a bunch about the City Edition jerseys. Lots of fun. So go check that out. It was Trey, Tass, and JD talking to Rembert Brown. I haven't listened to it yet. It went up a little too late for me last night. I had to watch some basketball, but I'm excited today, guys. And by all accounts, talking to you guys, it's a fun conversation, a great podcast. So go check that one out. Good times were had by you guys?
Absolutely.
Fun times.
Nice. So there you go. Rembert Brown, that podcast is now up. Go check it out. It's up on YouTube too if you want to watch it. All right, we've got JD's Wonder Woman 1980 review, 84 review. We've got Tweet of the Night, which JD actually has as well. But we're starting here today with a little What You Got.
What you got?
Yes. What you got? Oh, it's been so long. First one, guys. Biggest sigh of relief victory. All right. I'm going to give you three options, Tass. You can get us started. The Bucks, the Celtics, or the Sixers. The biggest sigh of relief victory. And what I mean by that is, these teams have not come out blazing, but they got good quality wins last night. Some of them in dominant fashion. Which team are you picking there for the sigh of relief victory? Bucks, Celtics, or Sixers? What you got?
Well, I'm glad we're going to stay away from the Raptors for a second. We'll cry a little bit later about the fantastic era that was that championship run a little later in the show. I think the sigh of relief, I'm going to go away from the Bucks 3-point record for a second. Amazing. I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics because it sure looked like they were going to fall to 1-3, dropping 2 straight games to the Pacers because they were down double digits in the fourth quarter against the Indiana Pacers. And that one win that they had was a lucky bounce, even though Jason Tatum won't admit it, that bank shot against the Bucks way back when, it feels like, a week ago. That was their only victory this season. At this point, it looked like fourth quarter that they were going to lose. And then they had a beautiful, fantastic fourth quarter comeback. And now they're 2-2 and they're sitting pretty. And I think they're breathing a sigh of relief because Jason Tatum has not looked like himself despite that great shot. He said he played like crap in that game. And he only had 4 free throws through the first 3 games. He's had to do a ton with Kemba Walker out. He's had to do a lot of the setting up of this team. And I think in the end, it's going to prove that was beneficial for him, because I think he has to do so much in the playoffs. He's going to rely on Kemba Walker more. He's going to appreciate it. He's going to learn from that. But if you go down 1-3, like it sure looked like they were going to do against another good playoff team, it could have been 3 straight losses: Pacers, and the Brooklyn Nets. Do you rush Kemba Walker back at some point? That would be a worry. And obviously the Beantown boys and gals would be up in arms if they went down 1-3. And every loss really does matter because it is a shortened season and you just never know. They could drop down. I mentioned those playoff teams that they're losing to. There are a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference. Does Danny Ainge have to finally pull the trade? I'm very much intrigued with James Harden potentially being on the Boston Celtics. Again, I think at this point, Kemba Walker is getting older. If they do lose this game, then I think there is some chatter about them trying to pull the trigger on a deal. But they have played 4 playoff teams. They played 4 really good teams, and now sitting at 2-2, I think they're happy. And then and Jason Tatum going to the free throw line, 10 free throw attempts in this one. They got to feel a lot better. But again, I think in the long run, even though there's some panicking out there, I think this will be good for Jason Tatum. But they do miss Kemba Walker. There's no doubt about that. Marcus Smart isn't that same guy, and Jason Tatum, that's a lot to rely on. But getting to the free throw line, they're starting to look like a championship contender again. Yeah,
they cranked up the defense there late. Like you said, Tatum led them in the fourth, helped that he was getting to the line. So they beat the Pacers by 5. You said the Bucks set the single game NBA record for three-pointers made with 29 threes in a 47-point trouncing of the Heat. And then the Sixers, who were led by Embiid and Harris, they knocked off the Raps. So they improved to 3-1. So Trey, same question. Task goes Boston. He goes with the Beantown boys and gals. Which of those 3 teams had the bigger sigh of relief victory last night?
I'm with Tass. I think it's Boston, just because when you're talking about a sigh of relief, it's kind of got to be something bad that happens for the other team too. And I think that the Pacers kind of fell apart at the end of this game. TJ Warren fouled out with about 4 minutes left. We got a great Jaylen Brown push for a layup. The guy has been excellent so far this season. I always love how he surprises an opponent with just a take to the other side of the court in the fourth quarter. It feels like it happens every single game. He gets a steal and still has the energy and the will to push it the other way. We had Malcolm Brogdon miss the layup that he could have easily made. Domantas Sabonis went up for a jump shot, turned it into a pass to Miles Turner. He wasn't looking. Jaylen Brown had the steal off the inbounds. Domantas Sabonis tried to catch the ball with his new haircut. It just wasn't happening for the Pacers last night. They've had a great start, but it's also a sigh of relief, I think, for the Sixers with the way they won against the Raptors. Once Joel Embiid came back and kind of, showed why you need to have somebody around that can guard him. The Raptors were happy to be double teaming him, triple teaming him, but Embiid would kick the ball out. The ball would actually move around the perimeter. It found Danny Green in the corner for a 3 at one point. There was a massive, almost quadruple team on Embiid with about a minute left. He kicks it out to Seth Curry, who's wide open at the top of the key. He knocks it down. And I think if you're a Sixers fan, you see Danny Green making a 3 when he needs to make a 3. You see Seth Curry doing it again. He had a clutch shot last week as well. I think if you're a Sixers fan, you just got to be a little bit excited that you're seeing the structure of this team pay off immediately, right? You're seeing the problems that you've had in the past couple of seasons where if Simmons and Embiid are taken away, there's not going to be somebody on the outside who can really knock down the threes. But last night, Green hit a big one. Seth Curry hit a big one. If you're a Sixers fan, you got to be loving it. You got to say, hey, our team looks like it's supposed to look. That's nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. All 3 of these wins really like sort of revenge victories too, Lily, right? With the Bucks killing the Heat after losing to them in the playoffs, and the Sixers have had a lot of losses to the Raptors the last couple of years, but they get theirs. And then the Celtics, like Tass talked about, having already lost to the Pacers, get this one last night. Where do you go from those 3?
Yeah, I guess I would probably lean towards the 76ers because the Raptors were desperate for a win and the Raptors finding ways to lose right now. That's the opposite of when a team's on a roll, they find ways to win. The Raptors just find ways to lose, and they stunk it up right there at the end. Really, they couldn't close it out. Bainesy's big 3, that was a big turning point there as well. He knocked it in, but then it gets waved off. But the Raptors
got waved off about 8 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly, I know, which is even more frustrating. Yeah. But the Raptors sort of had chances, but then the Sixers in that sort of crunch winning time there. And Embiid made a really nice play to get Seth Curry that three at the end, which was kind of the sealer there. And Embiid, to me, looks just a little bit more in control of his game right now, which is something that I think is the doctor of his influence. That's what I'm giving credit to, in that he knows he can be dominant and big at times, but he doesn't always have to do anything. Trust your teammates. Trust those guys who can hit threes like Danny Green and Seth Curry, and find those guys. And that's what it was at the end there. And Tobias Harris had a good game as well. He's one of his good games where he just sort of throws it up and you think maybe this guy's an all-star, and then he'll go missing again for another 8 or 9 games. So I think it was that one. I mean, the Bucks game, that was an impressive win against a team that absolutely destroyed them in the playoffs last season, but no Jimmy Butler. So I think that takes a little bit of the sting out of that one. But it was something to see, considering their last game for Milwaukee. They got absolutely punked by the Knicks. And the only other win they've had was against the Warriors, who are no good as well this season. So it was good to see Milwaukee get a convincing win against for the most part, a good team. But of course, without Jimmy Butler there, it's not quite the same. So I'll go back to the Sixers. I think that was an impressive victory for them because of the way they came from behind. I mean, the Raptors blew this one. I really think the Raptors blew it.
Okay. Well, let's get to that because that's the next question here in the what you got. Most disappointing start to the season. I'll hit you with 3 teams. The Raptors, 0-3, losing to the Sixers last night. They're one of 4 teams still without a win. It's the Raps, Pistons, Wizards, and Rockets. The Heat, getting absolutely embarrassed there. Yeah, no Jimmy Butler, but you're still a good team and just killed on TNT. They're 1-2. And the Nuggets lose the late game last night. They fall to 1-3. So of those 3 teams, who's had the most disappointing start, Trey?
Come on, Skeets. It's got to be the Raptors. They're the only winless, no dunks team. I can't even imagine cheering for a team that doesn't have a victory at this point in the season. Look at the Cavs. They're great. Lee's Knicks also pretty solid. And the Bulls started their playoff push last night. So it's obviously got to be the Raptors. I kid. They're going to be fine. They're going to end up with a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. It just feels like Aaron Baines and Alex Len may not be the solution for their big guys. I don't know if there's another way to bring in somebody to help in that realm, but that's something to worry about later. But to me, the most disappointing start so far is the Heat. They just don't look like the bubble Heat. They look like the regular season Heat from last year when they could not get a win on the road. They're 0-2 right now. They got a win at home. Like we said, no Jimmy Butler last night. They had a quick turnaround from the NBA Finals, so you can expect a slow start. It did feel like the Bucks had been waiting to play this game for about 80 days, but the Heat just don't have the ferocity right now. If you lose by 47, you give up 29 threes. That's a disaster, and it's an embarrassment, even if you were one of the 2 teams that was playing most recently. The Heat can't be excited about the way they started. If you talk all about culture and all about being ready to play, and then you're not ready to play when the season starts, it looks bad. But just like I think the Raptors will be fine eventually this season, I expect the same from the Heat.
Tass, where do you go with this one? Who's been more disappointing of these 3 really good teams?
I was pleased watching that Bucks game for a few reasons. First, the 29 threes, obviously an incredible record. 12 guys made threes, another NBA record.
Wow.
And this was the day that John Horst talked to Eric Name of The Athletic and said, this is the best team that we've put around Giannis. Pretty good timing because they just all were hammering those shots. This is exactly what John Horst was talking about. What he set up around Giannis was 3-point shooters. So that all happens. And then in the third quarter, TNT decides to go away from the game that they're showing. I don't know if that's ever happened where they decide to just bounce around. This was not planned. This wasn't an in-between game where the game is over. They decided to do some court surfing and bounce around to different games because it was a 30-point blowout at that point. They didn't even care to stick around to see the 3-point record happen in the fourth quarter. This was a perfect night for the Milwaukee Bucks, and it was led in terms of threes by Drew Holiday, and he is the guy that's going to have to make things happen. Everybody hitting threes, and Drew was leading the way with 6. So I kind of like what TNT did there. This is what you got to do. You got to keep people engaged, or else they're going to click, tune out, find a stream, go on to LP, or do something else. So that was a nice game for the Bucks. But the worrisome part is I thought Aaron Baines could play Joel Embiid, and that didn't happen.
No.
Aaron Baines is made for Joel Embiid. So now getting into the mid-30s, I mean, that's the worrisome part, is that if you can't guard the big body, you're going to get into space. Like they had this game in the fourth quarter, and this was a game where the Sixers shot 8 of 31 from three, and Joel Embiid Tobias Harris led the team in field goal attempts. But yeah, they found a way there at the end, and the Raps found a way to lose. So the worrisome part is, can the Raps close games, and is their center spot a little bit too holy to overcome? Because Trey said they should be a top 6 seed. I think they are sort of tier 2, but the way the Pacers are playing, it's going to be a fight to get up into those home court seats that they would expect to make. But it's a battle in the East, man. There's no real joke team amongst the top 7, I would say.
No, you're right. It's interesting to see Raptors Twitter here this morning, or late last night after the loss. It's like you got a lot of people like the sky is falling. Here we go, back to 2005. This is brutal. And then of course you've got other people saying, okay, it's only 3 games. They've had double-digit leads in all 3 of these games. Things go a little differently. They're very easily 3-0 or 2-1, and then they're okay. But there are issues here, and I don't think it's just Bainesy there not being able to slow down Joel Embiid, who was just parading to the free throw line. I mean, he's a beast. You got to slap at him and put him there. I get it, but they stink when Kyle Lowry is not playing. Point blank. Period. They are garbage when he's on the bench, and a lot of that's got to fall on Fred VanVleet's shoulders. He's failed to lead them when it's just him out there and generate good looks. Siakam continues to struggle. There's no other way to put it. He's sloppy with the ball. I mean, even got Nick Nurse pointing that out, not really calling him by name, but basically saying, we got to be better with the ball. He's struggling to score inside still. Norman Powell looks more like a 12th man than a viable 6th man of the year candidate. I mean, he has been brutal. They had leads. They played well. And this was crazy. I watched this whole game. And Tess, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know how much you caught of it, but I thought the Raptors outplayed the Sixers for like what felt like 42, 43, 44 minutes of this game. Like they were the better team. They really were. The defense was a little more Raptors-like. They were hitting some threes. Siakam and even Norm there for a little bit. And OG was great, I thought. And they still lose. It was one of these like, wow, like the Sixers just outplayed them for like 4 minutes, just timely minutes. And they won because in the second quarter, the Raptors were up big, built a nice lead. But they should have been up 30. They should have been up so much that I was flipping around and doing some court surfing. But they didn't put the Sixers away. Sixers got right back into the game. And then, Lowry did his thing. He came back in at the end of the half and gave them an 8-0 run just because he's crafty Kyle Lowry. And, Griff did some free throws and had an awesome, the 2-for-1 and all that. But, just so many times they didn't put them away. Sixers hung around and pulled it out. But there are a lot of, I'm a little concerned for what's going on in Toronto just because – outside of Kyle, there's not a lot of positives right now with a lot of the way a lot of these guys are playing, especially they're guys that they paid a lot of money to in Siakam and VanVleet. Lee, what do you think about the Raps?
Yeah, I just think they, like I said earlier, when you're in a bit of a trot, you can find ways to lose games. And it's the opposite when you're in a bit of a winning streak where you just sort of pull victories out. The Raptors are pulling losses out at the moment because they haven't been playing super bad, but they haven't been able to close out games. And Siakam, he's the biggest concern right now because he didn't have a great bubble. And so far, you're waiting for him to because he said he was working on his shot during that brief off season and he was trying to get better. And we just haven't seen him yet live up to that sort of potential that got him that huge contract. So I think that's where it focuses. With Kyle Lowry, he's going to fight and scrap no matter what. He always performs for the Raptors. But other guys you mentioned there, like Norm Powell, he is feast or famine, and he was very good last season. He was having a great season. But prior to that, he was someone who really was up and down, and that's he is certainly struggling here. Fred, he got the big contract. We're expecting him to take that step up, and he hasn't yet done it. So, I look, the Raptors haven't been completely embarrassed yet in a loss. They haven't just been a disaster. No, but they haven't been polished, and you expect that they will shake that off. And I can easily see them going on a 4 or 5 game win streak once they get that first one down. But, they're out at Tampa. They've only played 1 game down there in Tampa. Then they went to San Antonio. Now they're in Philadelphia. So they've had a bit of a tough schedule there against some good teams. Not to make
3 road games.
Not to make excuses for them, but to me, it's like they're playing well enough to win games. They just can't get over the line. So there's a few little problems there. But
so if I had a panic button in front of you right now, you wouldn't be pressing the panic button for the Raptors yet.
Not just yet. Not just yet. I mean, again, I give credit to the Sixers for bouncing back after an embarrassing loss in their last game to the Cavaliers. And again, they closed out the game after the Raptors led so much of it. I mean, the last 40 seconds of that third period was a tied game, and then the Raptors rattled off 8 straight points. So the Raptors are figuring out ways to score and to get themselves into the lead. Just can't close it out right now. So I think it will come. They don't have any injury concerns. It's just a matter of trying to get that first victory under the belt and get that confidence and swagger back.
Well, Trey,
it would help to go to the free throw line there, mate. Only 13.7 attempts, worse than the league. Sam Unono mentioning in the stream team that Trae Young is taking more free throw attempts than the Raptors are as a team. When you're trying to close out a game in the fourth quarter, it helps to go to the line. I do like this suggestion from Greg Ray in the stream team who says the Raptors could get Al Horford for a first rounder. Think that helps?
Interesting.
It's interesting, right? Horford is certainly an upgrade over Baines and Len. Baines and Len are both backup centers for the Phoenix Suns. Now the Raptors are running them out there as major pieces. Al Horford's still a starter in this league, and he has the rep of a Joel Embiid stopper. The Sixers signed Al Horford. They're like, we cannot let you guard Joel Embiid anymore. We will submarine our own team just so that Al Horford doesn't guard Joel Embiid.
I've got the trade NBA machine up here, so just give me a minute. I'll see if I can figure it out.
Here we go. Oh,
man. NBA machine. Woo! Here it comes. Yeah, Al Horford would help a lot. They just fade in the fourth quarter. They're just not right. They just need to see a bucket go in. But yeah, Al Horford. They have. As much as people want to say Aaron Baines and Chris Boucher and Alex Len are going to supplement Marcus Gasol and Serge Ibaka, that's nuts. They've gotten worse at the 5 spot, but they just need to see some shots go in. I believe in Pascal Siakam's his form. I think it looks good, even though the shots aren't technically going in. They're getting a lot from a lot of guys. I think they're fighting. They just need to see a W happen in the fourth quarter. And they do it by committee, and they're kind of waiting for Pascal Siakam to kick ass. Somebody just needs to hit a friggin' shot.
Trey, tell me, what's it like when your team wins a basketball game? Like, is it crazy?
Dude, it's awesome, man. I woke up this morning feeling jacked and juiced.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so it sounds like really that none of you guys are panicking when it comes to the Raptors being 0-3. We talked about the Heat, and the Nuggets are 1-3. I don't want to gloss over them. I know we're going to talk about who they played in the Kings a little bit later here, so maybe we'll just leave it at that right now. They didn't have Jamal Murray in their loss last night, but 1-3 for a team that's in the conference finals, not a hot start after a little bit of turnover too, losing some, guys like Grant and Plumlee and Craig, guys that helped defensively for a team that wasn't even a juggernaut defensively as it was. Maybe it's impacting them a little bit. All right, well, our next one here, this one's crazy. Most unlikely MVP candidate. All right. Unlikely MVP candidate. They are at the table. They've pulled up a folding chair. At the very least, they're jamming their way into the conversation at this table. Vucevic, Drummond, or Julius Randle. Yeah, you heard me. I didn't stutter. Vooch, Drummond, and Randle having MVP-like seasons here after 1 week. So, who's the most unlikely of those three? Lily, get us started.
Due to my personal bias against Vucevic, I can't even joke about him being an early MVP candidate, but I will say he's been great and the Magic unbeaten so far. He has been very, very good. Just getting those wins, that's all they need, but I can't do it. I just can't do it yet. Last night, though, we had a battle of the Knicks and the Cavaliers, and it was Randle and Andre Drummond there for Cleveland. And Andre Drummond, again, he's good. He puts up these monster numbers, gets the steals and blocks as well. I don't know if he got Wallboy. I didn't see Wallboy this morning, but he's probably in contention there. He's been fantastic. And the Cavs.
No, Vooch got Wallboy.
Oh, did he? Oh, wow. But I will say, Julius Randle, he's almost averaging a triple-double on the season. He's 24, 10, and 7.5. And last night, he was the best player on the court. He was fantastic for the Knicks. Doing it all, finding his teammates, hitting the threes, hitting that mid-ranger. He's got the Zach Randolph mid-ranger perfect right now where he just floats that up and goes in. But his leadership and his court awareness and being the best player on his team is really standing out right now. And the Knicks, again, this was a fun game to watch. I was excited to watch it because both teams have been playing well, relatively speaking, to what we expect from them. And Randle was great. He was very, very good last night. So I think given the record, they're 2-2, aren't they? The Knicks right now? Yeah, they're 2-2. I wanted to go with Andre Drummond because the Cavs are 3-1, and he has been great. But I think Randle is playing just so well and looking so good out there. So I'm going to go with him. But when I saw this question, I was like, this is a great question because these two teams, there was no way I thought we'd be talking about these two teams a week into the season for not just playing well, but winning basketball and playing fun basketball. So it's great to see. And that was another fun game last night. Unfortunately, the Cavs couldn't pull it off. But credit to Julius Randle for leading the Knicks to a comfortable victory there.
Yeah, I mean, he's like their point guard. He had 9 turnovers in last night's game, but his shooting splits are pretty wild. He's shooting 55% from the floor, 69% from 3, very nice, and 74% from the line. He's 9 of 13 from deep right now. He is on fire and setting up guys and scoring. So Trey, I'll go to you next. I mean, Vooch, Drummond, Randle. Who's sitting there at that table?
Give me Vooch. He's being such a hater. It's a game, mate. That's got to be Vooch. The way he's expanded his game over his career has made things easier for the Magic, and he's been good, but it's always, this is what the Magic do. The beginning of the season, they look great. They come out playing defense. The offense is clicking. Eventually, the scouting report will turn around. Teams will figure out how to stop the Magic, but at the beginning of a season, it always works for some reason. It's going to be Vucevic scoring in the post, maybe scoring outside. It's going to be Evan Fournier pump faking, shooting a 20-footer, knocking it down, and it's going to be Terrence Ross getting buckets off the bench. I feel like I've watched the same Magic game for 4 straight seasons, but it's working right now. The best they've been since 2009, the first time they've gone 4-0 since then. And if I'm not mistaken, that year they went to the finals. No, I guess they went to the finals in 2010. So in June. So maybe it's just a carryover year, but it's been a good start for the Magic. How long can they keep it up? Who knows? Usually by December is when they start wilting and playing a little bit closer to 500 ball. We're starting here in December, so maybe they're able to stretch it out a little bit longer.
All right, Trey or Tass, before I ask you, let me just give you the stats. We heard Randall's stats, but Vooch is averaging 20 points per game, 11.5 rebounds per game, nearly 4 assists per game. His shooting splits 48 and 45, so he's on fire from distance. 24.2 PER. Drummond, meanwhile, is a 20 and 15 guy with 3.5 assists per game, shooting 46% from the floor. Pretty similar PER, 23.6. Who you going? Most unlikely MVP candidate of those 3 in the East, those beasts from the East.
This is a crazy question because none of them are.
I saw this question and I liked this question.
Yeah, I saw this question and I thought of last year when Andre Drummond was absolutely balling out early on for the Detroit Pistons, and then he got traded for a 2nd-round pick months later. He was literally in the conversation for best centers in the game with Jokic and Embiid. That was a conversation, and he was up there because he's putting those numbers up like he does every year. So some of those numbers are important because he grabs a lot of boards. Some of them are empty stats. I think Vooch's stats are a little bit more impactful right now. Vooch is sort of the center of the offense, and they don't have an offense. If they don't have Nikola Vucevic out there, they're scrapping and clawing for points. So Vooch is my MVP of this unlikely MVP trio because Julius Randle's going to fall off a bit, and Andre Drummond's stats just don't mean the same to me as Vooch. But hopefully Vooch can keep it up. This is a Magic's offense kind of just falls apart at some point. It just doesn't stay in that flow, and then Aaron Gordon can go to his proper role of not trying too hard out there if Vooch is doing this. So Vooch has the talent. It's kind of crazy to see him not do it for a full season. So hopefully he can do that.
I gotta pick Randle with this one. This great question, but a crazy question, as we have to note. Just because Vooch has been an all-star. And, Lee hates him, but we've talked about him and his unbelievable abilities before. Drummond has been, a 2-time All-Star? I think Drummond made an All-NBA team, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
He's in the conversation as being one of the better guys in his position. But Randle, give me a break. That was for you, Trey. Randle, this is wild. And I saw the Athletics' Mike Vorkunov pointing out that unfathomably The Knicks lead the league in 3-point shooting a full week into the season. That is crazy. Last season, they were right near the bottom, and they haven't been in the top 20 in years, Vorkunov pointed out. So for them to be just hitting all these threes, a lot of them set up by Randle. He is their point guard, which is wild. He's like Blake Griffin, basically, for them, but 25, 11, and 8. Hello. And he's gotten better. There's some turnovers were bad last night, but he is better with the ball. He's a more willing passer for sure. He used to pound that rock, man. Like that thing would go in his hands like dribble, like just like the blinders on. He sees the guy in the corner. He zips it over there now. So he's become a bit of a better decision maker, in my opinion. Will this continue? Probably not. But
he's a great baller when he keeps it up. Can he keep it up? Same with all these guys.
All these guys.
Because the Cavs were the number 1 3-point shooting team going into last night, and they played the Knicks, and they clanked. I mean, it's never too early to talk about MVP candidates. I think next year we should get on the horn on Tuesday night through one half of basketball and start talking about the MVP.
Okay.
Yeah, never too early.
All right. Next one.
Sorry, just one other thing with Drummond, though. Statistically, he's averaging 3 steals and 3 blocks a game as well.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is incredible. I don't know. Tass, you're playing fantasy ball these days. He must be like one of the top-ranked players for sure because his field goal percentage is 55%. I guess his free throws, and he doesn't give you the threes, obviously, but, I mean, to put up those sort of numbers on both ends of the floor is incredible.
Yeah, let me check my lead.
He's shooting 45%, not 55%.
Oh, is that right? From the field?
Yeah, it's not.
That's not good.
Yeah. He would be.
He
nice
seems like he's in about the 20th spot in fantasy. Maybe 25.
I mean, he's
maybe
garbage
25.
at the free throw line. You're getting no threes from him, and he hasn't been lights out from the floor. Oh man, we're talking fantasy ball. Here we go.
Talking fantasy ball and talking the Cavs. Amazing. Andre Drummond was traded for a bag of beans last year, and it honestly seems like it has worked out for the Cavaliers a bit, right? Because he's a fast guy. Like he's a fast center. He's still athletic, and that's the way this team should be playing. With the Sexland backcourt there, they need to be playing fast, and I think that bringing in Andre Drummond has kind of unlocked that for them, having a big who can run alongside those guys rather than Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love, who have been the bigs usually for the Cavs. They're not fast break kind of players, but when you're throwing out Larry Nance and Andre Drummond, it works.
It's working right now. Oh, glad we did that question. A couple more. What you got? Trey, we'll go to you first. Kings beat the Nuggets last night. They're 3-1. Suns beat the Pelicans in the second game on TNT. They're 3-1. So of those two, Phoenix and Sacramento, more likely to make the West playoffs. If you had to pick one, what you got?
Well, if I got to pick one, I think the Suns are a lock. To me, the bubble does not seem like a mirage at all for Phoenix. They look professional. They look like they're on the same page. Cam Johnson has been really solid so far this season. He's rising up the ranks of handsome NBA players out there. I've been impressed with the Suns. They really handled the Pelicans last night, and these are two teams that you would think would be sort of in the same tier, trying to make the playoffs for the first time in a while. But the Suns look like a class ahead of the Pelicans, no doubt about it. That being said, I'm pretty impressed with the Kings so far. When De'Aaron Fox checks in the fourth quarter, he makes every single play that needs to be made. Buddy Hield has been solid for them. Yep. Harrison Barnes has been really good, but the big story last night was the Tyrese Haliburton coming out party. This guy does not look like a rookie at all. He's bossing around everybody else. He's saying, Hassan Whiteside, here's where you need to be. De'Aaron Fox, here's where you need to be. And he's played, 4 games now in the NBA? The Nuggets broadcast compared him to Andre Miller. I thought that was a nice comparison. I also saw somebody call him skinny Brandon Roy. I don't know exactly which is the right one, but he fits in perfectly with the Kings backcourt. They've been bringing off the bench. And I kind of think he'll be starting in not too long just because he just connects so many pieces. He can hit like a crazy 30-footer with that weird-looking shot.
Yes.
Or he can just move the ball. He just gets people in the right places. He looks like he's been playing in the NBA for 10 years already.
Oh, I 100% agree. I'm loving the Kings right now. I like to see them get some victories here too. I'm just like terrified that when the Kings ever have like a little good run and things are going well and they're winning games, someone inevitably gets hurt on the Kings. It always happens. So I feel like I'm jinxing it already, but you're right about Haliburton, man. Like he's sort of, I don't know where my mind goes to like a Flalo for some reason. I don't know why. Just like a guy that's just like really good. And it's just for whatever reason makes all the like right plays, small things. and just helps his team like look like a competent basketball team. And he's a rookie. I'm with you on that, Trey. Bagley, I think, is looking pretty solid too. They're moving the ball really well. They're fun. They had a fast break last night where it was like, no, you take it. No, you take it. You take it. And it was like Buddy Hield was included in that. Like Buddy Hield years prior was taking it. But, he's dropping it up. They're playing fun. That was a nice victory, I thought. And that was like, they were dominant in the second quarter, up huge. Then they give it all back in the third. And you're like, Sacramento. And then they, like you said, Fox comes in, sort of steadies the ship along with Haliburton. And they pulled out a really convincing victory. That was a great one. I'm high on the Kings right now, if you can't tell. But the Suns, I will say, Tass, before we get your answer on this one, like, I didn't watch that game. I see the box score in the morning, or see the score, excuse me, and I see the Suns punk them. I'm like, oh, Booker must have went for 35. Maybe Chris Paul had like a triple-double or something. Like, those guys did nothing. Booker and Chris Paul like combined for like, I don't know, what is it, like 18 points, 17 points, something like that, maybe even less. They did nothing, and they still got a very, very convincing win. So who would you pick between the Suns and Kings to be more likely to get in there?
Yeah, the Suns are showing that they're a well-rounded team, kind of like the Bucks last night. They get 29 threes, and Giannis hits 0. Their best player doesn't contribute to the final storyline there. I think it's the Kings at this point. As far as a playoff team, the Suns, I do agree. The bubble was not a facade, but then you get Chris Paul in there. The only mistake they've made is that they didn't pick Tyrese Haliburton at the 10 spot when they had the chance, and they let him go to 12. A lot of people calling him the most polished player. Yeah, his form ain't all that good. But to me, even though his cousin is Eddie Jones, which is crazy, I didn't know that. I think he kind of looks like Doug Christie out there. And I don't think it's just because of the Kings. I think there's going to be a lot of split screens between Tyrese Haliburton and Doug Christie, just physically the look. But yeah, he's the adult in the room when he gets out there on the floor. Haliburton just ain't a beautiful town in Ontario. The guy's a good ball player. He just knows what to do out there. I don't know if he starts because then you piss off Buddy Hield again. And so I don't know what happens there. But yeah, he's not really like your prototypical come off the bench and fire away type guy because he's not necessarily a shooter, but the shots are going down right now. He's shooting 50% from three, 56% from the floor, and yeah, he's a perfect king at this point. A young guy who knows what he's doing, and that they've swung and missed over and over and over again in the draft. And to get him at 12 was a godsend for them. So they got to be pretty friggin' happy right now. And they beat a Nuggets team, that we should talk about. They came out of the gates last year really, really great on the defensive end. And now they're the exact opposite. They were a top 2 defense for a long time. Now they're a bottom 3 defense. And yeah, I think that has to do with Jeremy Grant and Torrey Craig not being there and Michael Porter being in that starting lineup and them just not gelling on that page. That was definitely the worry with Porter going into the starting lineup. And they're going to kill people on the offensive end. The question is the defensive end. And even though Jokic looks like an MVP candidate, it's got to be a team effort on that end. And I'm shocked with Jamal Murray out that they couldn't pick it up. Because you would just think, we're going to rally around our superstar not being in the lineup. That was a bad loss for them.
Lee, more likely to make the West playoffs. The Suns or the Kings?
I have to go with Chris Paul on the Suns. I just have to because there's something a little bit more reliable about him being there, just getting that team over the line. The Kings, it's been great. No question. They've been fun to watch, but it just feels like we've seen this before a couple of times, and then all of a sudden it just completely, the wheels fall off. Someone gets upset, someone gets angry, then someone gets injured, and then all of a sudden they lose 11 in a row, and it's a disaster again. So, I hope that's not the case because it would be good to see the Kings finally break through and get into that play-in tournament. That would be an enormous start for them.
Crazy, man.
Crazy. We would have probably like a Brogdon-like situation. If the Kings were winning enough games and Haliburton continues to contribute, but he doesn't have dominant box scores, there'll be like the whole like, who's more deserving of Rookie of the Year? Would it be him? Or is it like Wiseman who's putting up, 20 and 10s or stuff like that? I could see that.
That's a pretty good comparison, too, as far as comps go.
Brogdon. Yeah. Just very solid winning basketball players. So absolutely.
Speaking of Haliburton, though, like against the Nuggets in that first game of the season.
Oh, sorry.
No. He was good against the Nuggets even in game one. Like he's come into the league ready.
Oh, yeah.
So that could be one of those surprise. A couple of people were picking him as a sort of dark horse Rookie of the Year candidate. So,
John Hollinger, remember when we talked to him about his mock draft? All I remember is he hated everybody except Haliburton. He's like, he's the only good player in this draft. I mean, I'm kidding a little bit, but yeah, I know you're right. People were high.
Yeah. So it's good. It's good. And Buddy Hield, we know that he's not super happy just in Sacramento right now, but he hasn't been pouting on the court. He's been playing really well. And De'Aaron Fox does look like he has just matured to a level where he's like, I am the best player on this team. I have to go out there and win games like a good point guard, like someone like Chris Paul does. And he's done that. So, yeah, it's good. It just feels a little bit like, man, these don't get too good too early and then have that fall off. Just be sort of fly under the radar a little bit.
Too early, yeah.
But so far, one good thing for the Suns, a good sign, is that Chris Paul hasn't had to do too much for that team, which is good. You don't want him to be the best player on that team. He's got to be like their third best player behind Booker and Ayton, and just pick his spots. And so that's a good sign there for Phoenix, which hopefully they can sustain it as well.
Mm-hmm. Fun question for you guys out there in the stream team. And for anybody listening a little bit later, you can tweet at us at NoDunkSink. All of these, let us know your answers. But more likely to make the West playoffs. Or which team are you enjoying watching more right now, even? Suns or the Kings? Because it's nice to see them get some victories. Go ahead.
For sure. And I'll just jump in. Also fun to know that Tyrese Haliburton, born in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oh, that's fun to say.
Didn't know that was a place. Talked about Haliburton, Ontario. Now talking about Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And I see, again, a great stat you guys brought up earlier from the stream team that Trae Young averaging more free throws than the entire Toronto Raptors team. I see it now mentioned for a second time here in the stream team. You got to credit who it comes from. I know, stats aren't what's the word I'm looking for? Everybody can find stats on their own, but somebody came up with that stat because I've seen it elsewhere. Give a little bit of credit, all right? Just credit somebody because I got you. I know John Schumann's on the stream team here, and a lot of times people don't credit him for the deep stats that he finds.
Right?
Somebody throw a bone because I know Sam Unono and Greg Ayre, they saw it from somebody. Who did it? Who came up with that?
Who found that stat?
Who found that stat? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to blow up Shu's spot here, but I know Shu gets very angry when he's watching a game. On League Pass, and he hears a very, very specific stat that he obviously put the work in to find and shared with the world on Twitter or on NBA.com, and they don't credit my man Shu. That's got to be a little infuriating. There's no doubt.
Via NBA.com. You don't even have to credit Schumann if you don't want to say his long name. That's fine. But just say via NBA.com.
His last name. It's like, how many H's are in there? Is it double in there? So credit your stats, people. We try our best here. I think we do a pretty good job of it. But hey, keep us honest too, keep us honest. Yeah. All right. Our final one. Lee, you really wanted to get this one in here. Because you love ripping on coaches, man. You are ruthless. You know that? Hotter seat, Lee. Who's on the hotter seat? Is it the Wizards coach, Scott Brooks, or is it the Pistons coach, Dwayne Casey? That's a good question. I like that. Hey, man, you said I had a good question earlier. You have a good question now. You answer your own question.
This is a great question, I have to say. Listen, this is a tough one because when you look at the two teams, okay, the expectations, the Pistons are a team that's clearly rebuilding. So the expectations there to win and to make the playoffs are not quite the same as they are with Washington. Washington's like, we should be making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Scott Brooks is in the last year of his contract. They're 0-4, and they lose to the almighty Bulls last night. Look, he's a very nice guy, great guy, but it's almost like,
what, you know him?
Not really. But listen, the thing is, it feels like when you're the Wizards and you have the expectations and the coach is in the last year of his contract, it's like, this is the old, we've got to make something move without making a trade, without bringing a player in, fire the coach, get a new voice in there because, that was a bad loss to the Bulls. That was the one they should have won last night. Both teams, of course, desperate for a victory last night, and the Bulls did it pretty easily in the end, I would say. Pretty comfortable win. I don't know, Trae, I know you were nervous the other night and then it blew up in your face. How did you feel last night watching the game there?
Oh, I'll never feel secure in a 10-point lead for the Bulls. I saw them have a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. I'm like, this is going to be a loss for sure. But that's why I got Scotty Too Hottie as well on the hot seat. Oshkosh, but gosh, you lose to the Bulls like that. It was a disaster. I mean, the first half was ugly. Oh my, just throwing the ball around, both teams, nobody playing defense, but the Wizards kept at it being bad in the second half. They finished with 21 turnovers, and, I'm watching this on my laptop. I got the sound off just so I can be peeping that while Laura's watching something on the big TV. And there are so many times where it looks like there's a whistle blown and play has stopped, but then the Bulls are shooting a layup at the hoop, and you're like, oh, right, that's just how the Wizards play defense. There are just times when somebody will cut down the lane and nobody has any idea who's guarding them. I mean, we're not expecting the Wizards to be good, but I overestimated them. I thought they would be in the mix for a playoff spot. And right now, it just looks like Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal putting up stats and zero effort on the other end of the court. It's a disaster.
Yeah, I have to go with Brooks being on the hotter seat than Casey. I thought the Pistons would be the worst team in the league, and they're living up to that billing. I don't think it's Casey's fault. He's just got to figure out. He's just got to, like we've talked about, get the trade value up for some of his vets so that they can hopefully flip for young guys and draft picks. But yeah, Brooks, I mean, they're expected to be a good team, Tass. Some of us were very convinced. Do you go Brooks, Scotty Too Hottie, or Cool Casey? I don't know what
this is a good question, Lee, but not as good as the underrated most valuable player candidates, or unlikely most valuable player candidates. It's close. Yeah, I think it's Scott Brooks. The Dwayne Casey situation, yeah, he's playing young guys. I think he plays his young guys until he basically says at the end of games, like, oh, God, okay, they're not playing well enough. Let's get Blake in here. And Blake left yesterday's game under concussion protocol, got one in the mouth, so he left the game. There's question marks around that team, and that's to be expected. With the Wizards, yeah, they expect to win. I thought they'd have a year here where Russell Westbrook would be good, and then they'd come to a point where Bradley Beal's like, okay, I don't know how good we're going to be. Maybe I should get out of here. But it might come sooner than that. And I wonder what point they're going to regret that Russell Westbrook trade. Kind of like, OKC did or the Houston did with the trade for Russell Westbrook way back in the day. They're just not playing well. Not playing well at all. Don't like watching that. And I got to hold on before we go. Who's got a leaf blower?
Yeah,
somebody
got blows. I got blows.
Nice. Sweet. Let me just jump in here. Give credit to Rob Mahoney, according to Sam No.
Oh God, let's not go overboard.
For the stat. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, give it to him. It's not proprietary information. Stats aren't proprietary information. However, let's give credit.
Okay, I'd like to point out that the Wizards are 0-4. I'd like to credit NBA.com for that stat. I don't know who's in charge of their standings. Might be Cute Steve, but I'd like to credit him for letting me know that the Washington Wizards are 0-4. I do have a question about the Wizards, though, because you're seeing it already happen. Is this Westbrook's fault? That's what people are pointing the finger immediately at Westbrook. He's averaging a triple-double, the 19, 14, 13 in the 3 games he's played. He's not shooting well, 41%, I think, from the floor. I'd like to credit Cute Steve, I believe, for that stat as well. 1 for 10 from 3, a lot of turnovers. But is this his fault? I saw Ziller in his newsletter this morning pointing out that when Beal and Russ are out there, the Wizards are plus 29. So they're good. It's when Westbrook,
thank you for crediting Ziller. Thank you for crediting Ziller.
Shout out to Ghostface Ziller. But when Westbrook is not out there, that's when they're falling apart. So, I mean, I'm just a little worried that 0-4, Russ is the new guy there. It's his fault. I'm not sure that's the case. That's the easy angle, but I'm not sure I actually buy that. But I know people will say, no, it's Westbrook. That's why, great. He got triple doubles. So what? They lose. What do you think about that, Lee?
Oh, the stats don't back up that it's Westbrook's problem. I mean, there's so much more there to the Wizards, and you guys, we've sort of talked about it. The defense, they just don't care. So teams can score whenever they want. And Westbrook is out there doing what we know Westbrook can do. I mean, he's kind of gotten rid of that three-point shot a little bit. He's going into that mid-range, which is his shot, and he can do that. So when he's on the court, when he's on the floor, the team's going okay. So I don't think he does deserve to have the finger pointed at him in the past on some of the other teams he's been on. Yes, because he tries to do too much. But when he's out on the court, he's playing okay. The Wizards are just a badly constructed team, and that's really the problem here. Again, Davis Bertans had an okay game last night, but they signed him for 5 years and $80 million. He doesn't play defense, So they're just not a team that's constructed well enough to really compete. You bring in Westbrook, again, the triple doubles, great. He's not shooting, all that well, but he's sort of contributing. It's just where else is the talent on this roster outside of Beal and Westbrook? That's the real question.
when you have Russell Westbrook as a guard on your team, you got to have some scrappy defenders around him because Russell Westbrook isn't going to be scrapping defensively all the time. It's just, you've seen it happen. That's just the way it's going to work. Rui Hachimura not being in the lineup definitely hurts. He is one of those scrappy dudes. But also Russell Westbrook sitting games also hurts. He's also missed a game. So I think you can throw some blame on that for that loss because Russell Westbrook wasn't around. They need scrappy dudes in the lineup. So I think Isaac Bonga and Rui Hachimura are going to play lots around Russell Westbrook because that's what you need in terms of a constructed roster around Russell Westbrook.
How long does Brooks get here, you think, Trey? Like, how bad does this have to get until they will fire him and say, well, we got to get somebody else in here to try and right the ship?
Well, I guess it will depend on if they lose against the Bulls again on Thursday. Because if you lose to the Bulls again, maybe that's it. Maybe they say, come on, man, what are you doing? You're losing to the Bulls twice in a week. But I think, who knows? I mean, maybe they valued the stability in having the same coach there for a while. I remember Randy Whitman. It seemed like this guy was going to be fired for 3 straight seasons, and they kept bringing him back. There is the pre-existing relationship with Westbrook, which maybe factors into the decision as well. But the team looks exactly like they did last year, despite the fact that they did bring in another player. There was no John Wall last year. So theoretically, you upgraded just by having another all-star caliber player out there on the court. But they look no different than they did last year. And the problems that the Wizards had last season are the exact same problems they have this season. It's going to be tough to find somebody else to blame eventually for that. So, I mean, you got to think it's a month, maybe. I mean, I guess it'll depend on how this month goes. If they turn it around quickly, if they're able to look like they're at least competitive for the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference, I guess that helps. But you got to beat the Bulls on Thursday.
The question is, would they be better with John Wall playing instead of Russell Westbrook? Because he plays on both sides.
It's a good question. I mean, maybe.
Hey, in a show filled with good questions today, that might be the best.
Yeah.
All right. But I need time to think about it.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
And we need to get to JD's Wonder Woman 1984 review. But we have an update on the severity of Ja Morant's injury. Just quickly here. I guess the news could be worse. You tell me if I'm wrong, guys. According to the team, the Grizzlies star point guard has a grade 2 left ankle sprain. He's expected to miss 3 to 5 weeks. That timeline would put him around late January, early February, probably, and coming back. He's going to miss like 15 games, maybe a little bit more even. They're already missing Jaren Jackson Jr., Justice Winslow. Can Memphis survive, guys? Lee, can they? Are they in trouble here, having obviously their star player out for a decent chunk of time?
Yeah, I mean they are, because they got the win when he sat against the Nets there the other night, but that was obviously a close one. But yeah, they've got the Lakers in a back-to-back as well coming up. It's just hard to see that the Grizzlies can really hang on at this moment because they aren't a deep team, and they need any wins they can get. And obviously when Ja was playing, they hadn't broken through yet. So right. Yeah, this season could get away from them pretty quickly here, but the 3 to 5 weeks is good. A younger guy, he's going to want to get out there soon. So hopefully it's on the shorter side of that term there, and he can get back within 3 weeks. But so many games playing so close together, that the Grizzlies could find themselves in a bit of a hole here pretty quickly.
Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, give him the ball. He's their point guard. Tyus Jones, he's sort of their backup point guard. Maybe he gets it going here. Trey, do you have any faith that they can survive here without Ja?
I'm with Lee. It's not just needing to get Ja back. It's got to be Ja and Jaren Jackson, because the defense has been pretty bad for the Grizzlies so far, and that's where Jaren Jackson can really help stabilize them. Right now, if you look at the Grizzlies roster, they got 7 guys on the injury list, and that's going to be tough. I mean, obviously, Ja is the big one. If he's missing 3 to 5 weeks, like you're saying, Skeets, that could be 15 games. Their schedule, it isn't insane. They do have the Lakers twice, the Blazers twice, the Nets and the Sixers, but they play some other teams who are kind of on their same level. So maybe they'll able to, build around Kyle Anderson, build an offense around him, because he has been scoring the ball pretty well lately. Like, he'd never gotten to 20 points more than twice in his career, and he did it twice this week, So he's got the talent to be able to be a playmaker, to be a scorer, but they got to be able to stop somebody on the other end, because the offense is not going to come easily. Like, Anderson might be able to put up points. You might have a hot Dylan Brooks game, but these are not reliable guys who are going to be putting 25 on the board every single night. It's going to be tough for the Grizzlies. There's a lot of games smashed into a short time frame too. If you have a bad stretch, that can put you out of the mix pretty quick.
Yes, it can. Justice Winslow, I don't know when he is scheduled to come back, Tass. I know you're high on him. He could, in theory, play point too, right? We saw that experiment a little bit when he was with Miami, but he didn't play last night, and I don't know when they expect him back. It should be soon, I think.
Yeah, January sometime for Justice Winslow. But what kind of shape is he going to be in? Is he a guy who's just going to come along slowly in January and February? I mean, to come in and basically be the best, ask them to be the best player and run the show. That's going to be a lot for a guy who basically didn't play last year either. Did he even did he suit up last year? I mean, I really believe in Justice Winslow when he's healthy. He was an untouchable for the Miami Heat at the beginning of last year, which sounds freaking nuts when you think about it. But he was until Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson came around. They thought, wow, this dude's going to be our future star. So, yeah, I believe in him as long as he's healthy.
All right, let's get to tweet of the night.
Tweet of the night. Wow.
Twitter.
JD, every 5 days we give you this honor.
Yeah.
Look at Twitter and give us a tweet of the night.
Yeah. And first of all, I'd like to give credit to JD Skeets for this tweet. Put it in the old Slack last night or this morning, and it was great because I was really, really stuck. And it comes from our friend Kelsey O'Brien of Basketball News and the Dishes and Dimes podcast in response to the Raptors lost to the Sixers. I'm not worried about the Raptors being down 0-3 because I have gigantic honkin' hoops.
I laughed so hard when I first saw this tweet. You get to the end of the tweet and I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah,
and I just cackled.
It's very funny. I mean, honkin' hoots. Just like chef kiss to that. But also this is the optimistic, bright side attitude I'm looking for heading into 2021. Yes, the Raptors stink right now, but I'm comfortable in my own skin. And Kelsey, an inspiration and moving forward, this is what I'm going to do. When things are bad, I'm just going to look down on my body, pick a part I like, and, reflect on it,
At least you got that.
Like, Raps are down 0-3, but damn, my thighs, they're fire. So.
I love it. That is a great tweet. So, I pitched to it. So let's get your take on Wonder Woman 1984, because I did forget to come back to you the last couple of days.
No worries.
Such a cliffhanger here.
Pretty low on the list of priorities. Listen, I when I was watching it, I was thinking, man, I wish I was in the theater watching this so I could walk out, make a statement, been a long time since I walked out.
Oh, that's a great one.
And it's the first 10 minutes are great. Like there's this whole thing where you see Diana as a little girl and she's doing this obstacle course and it's back on the island, whatever the island's called. But and then it goes downhill. It falls off a cliff. It's like one of the worst movies I've seen in a very long time. I don't know how deep I could do a whole show on this, to be honest.
Wow, we might have to.
It's
save it for film review next time there's a lockout.
It's so bad. Everything about it is bad.
Yeah, it's the decisions that were made are hilarious. Like right after the great scene, we end up in a mall in the 80s, which we were all expecting. It's called WW84, But it felt Rachel was like, this feels like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Like this is, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, man, she is so right. It's like this. If Pee-wee Herman was written as a superhero, this would be that movie. It's literally the MacGuffin is a wishing stone where all your wishes come true. It's insane. And it's got my favorite Chris. Chris Pine is my favorite Chris.
Oh, Chris Pine!
Going at me. I love Chris Pine. Love him. Love him.
Is Chris Pine attractive?
I find him very attractive.
I feel he seems a little busted to me.
That's what makes him attractive. He's
Maybe he's
really
rugged.
broken.
Yeah.
Why do he have to be in another guy's body? I don't even understand that. Sorry, there might be some spoilers here, but
The mall scene is so bad.
it's laughable. It's like, and then it's got every trope that you could expect, like stereotype, and then it just gets worse. Like, Kristen Wiig's character is. How many times do we have to see this bumbling sort of socially awkward person become a supervillain? Like, what? Why did they do that? Also, when I was watching Kristen Wiig, I was wishing she was Wonder Woman. I'm like, why not cast her as Wonder Woman? Because she's so much more interesting and she's funny. And I don't know, like, Gal didn't do it for me this time. I was just this is so stiff, and it might not be her fault. I think it's the writing. I think this movie was buried in notes. Like, I think they sort of started out, hey, we're gonna have fun. It's gonna be in the 80s. It's gonna be great. And it's just like the studios just bombarded them with stupid notes. That's what I think. Also, how do you have a movie take place in the 1980s and there's literally no 80s music in it? Like, there's one song, and it's, what is it? Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. And it's in it. You can barely hear it. And by the way, not to nitpick, but that song came out in October of 1984. And that scene takes place before July 4th.
Oh,
1984.
Not to nitpick, though. Not to nitpick.
Not to nitpick.
That's fair, JD.
Yeah. Anyway, I hated it. 0 out of 5 Chris's. How many Chris's are there?
Is there 5 Chris's?
well, how many Chris's are there? There's
Pine, Hemsworth, Pratt. I mean, I just think there's 3.
Evans.
Yeah, you gotta have Evans.
Sorry.
Come on, it's Captain America.
Well, where's fine? Where's the other one?
I am
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
I'm so happy we asked you just for the quote. I wish I was watching this in a theater so I could walk out.
Have you ever walked out of a movie in a theater?
Yeah. What was the only once the Nicolas Cage ambulance movie? What was that?
Bringing Out the Dead.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it. I was not in the right mood for it, and I just got up and I said, "No thanks." See you later. I didn't laugh. But that's it. Yeah, I don't know about you guys. Anyone else walk out of a movie?
I walked out of The Libertine with Johnny Depp.
Wow.
It was just me and my girlfriend at the time were in the theater. Thought it would be a sexy movie, and it was not. Like, man, I'm into Johnny Depp wearing a wig, but not that wig.
What have you walked out of?
Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher made The Guardian in about 2006. It was absolutely atrocious. And I was super hungover watching it. So I was like, I can sit through anything except that. Seriously, watch it. Like, it's incredibly bad. Just so bad.
Wow.
So stupid. Such a stupid storyline. Bad acting. Ah, man, it's awful.
Okay. Tash, you ever left the movie theater?
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, I got coughed on, so I left.
Oh, okay.
They're closed. Just kidding. Well, movie theaters come back. TBD.
Oh, boy. Okay, let's get to pick'em results from last night. It was that Raptors-Sixers game. I threw on the reverse jinx. I tried. I did. I took Philly to cover the 2.5. And, well, I got the victory in the pick'em. I'm not even happy about it. Everybody else took the Raps thinking they'd get their first victory. They did not. So Tass is 3-2, Lee's 3-2, Trace 2-3, and I am leading the way right now at 4-1. Tass, we got 6 games on tonight. What's our pick'em game?
Milwaukee and Miami rematch from yesterday. The Bucks laying it on thick with an NBA record, 29 threes. Wouldn't expect the Bucks to be the team that holds the record, but they did it by 2, beating the Rockets record of 27. So repeat, they're 6.5-point favorites going into Miami. Miami just has to lose by 6 or less. Oh, what you got?
Wow, this is tough. This is weird. A team just gets hammered by 47 on national TV, and then they got to turn around and play them again. And the line's only, 6.5. Go ahead, Lee. Where are you going with this? You can bounce back.
So Jimmy Butler, I don't think he's officially ruled in or out yet. And Iguodala sat yesterday as well for rest. So I expect at least one of those guys back. But if you're the Bucks and you just put up 144 points against the Heat, I think you can win by 7 points or more. So I'm going to go with the Bucks in this one.
Yeah, so am I. I'm going Milwaukee to cover this as well. What do you got, Trey?
Well, in a baseball series like this, the question always is, did you burn through your bullpen? Do they still have it the next night? Give me the Bucks. If we don't know about Jimmy,
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to take the heat right now. Give me the Bucks.
Tass?
Yeah, Jim.
What about the culture, Tass? What about the culture? Heat culture, man. Come on.
Yeah, are they going to fight back? No, I'm going to play it safe and go with the Bucks.
Wow.
I don't have the guts.
Oh, everybody's taking Milwaukee to beat Miami by 7 points or more. Let's hear from you guys. What else we got on tonight? We got the Hawks and Nets, Hornets, Mavs, Lakers, Spurs, Blazers, Clippers, and I'm forgetting one there, Grizzlies, Celtics, in addition to the Bucks Heat. So enjoy the games tonight. We will be back tomorrow to break them all down. Hopefully, we'll have some great questions to throw at each other, maybe even some better answers. Email your questions in, nodunks@theathletic.com for next week's Beach Step-In. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NoDunksInc. And make sure you like and subscribe and hit the little notification button on the No Dunks YouTube page. All right, let's call it there. Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, got to give thanks to NBA.com and Steve Quintana for that fantastic schedule that we've got tonight in the NBA.
Embrace the day, people.